Hi Riley, how's it going? I thought we might take a bit of a break from the Let's Play videos to just have a bit more of a look at these big reactors that we built, alright? It might help you understand them a little bit better. So I've made a little bit of a creative world, peaceful and all that kind of stuff. I'm wearing no armor because it's all creative. And I might just show you like a little bit more about how these things are built and stuff like that, alright? Okay, so first of all, the edge of any reactor has to be made from reactor casing, okay? And that goes sort of all around the edge of where you want to be. And then to the height that you want to go, alright? And I'll just edge this off. Okay, good. So that's the basic idea of a reactor. Now this one is square. It doesn't have to be square. I can make one that looks, you know, that's a bit more rectangular. Do 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 do. Three. Do 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 do. So I'll just build this off. Bugger, and edge it off here. Alright, okay, so if I put the right components in here, this will turn into a valid reactor as well. It can be, you know, it's basically any square or rectangle or anything like that of almost any size. You know, like I said in our LP, I could go 100 blocks in any direction making a reactor. It wouldn't be very efficient, it would be very impressive, it'd still generate a lot of power, but that's what I'm talking about. Alright. Next thing a reactor needs, okay, is it needs a fuel rod. Now a fuel rod always needs a casing on the bottom, and then we have, you know, one or more of these fuel rods, and then it's capped off with a control rod. Always, okay? Now the inside of a reactor is where you put your fuel rods. Now you can put as few or as many as you want. I mean, I can put, say, one here, cap it off, and that's fine. Alright. I can put multiple of these things. Cap them off. And that's also fine. Alright, or I can just fill the whole thing with fuel rods, like this. Alright, cap that off, and that's fine. Alright. So it's entirely up to you. It's just that some layouts are much more efficient than others, okay? That's the thing to remember. So let's just get rid of all of the extras around here. I'll fill that in. And let's just get rid of this. Okay. Alright. The base of the reactor can be casings or glass, you know, however you want to do it. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, so that's valid. That's valid. You get the idea. You can do this any way you want, whichever way looks good for you. Alright? You need a controller. Good. You need a two of these access ports, one for inlet and one for outlet. That's because your fuel goes into one and your waste comes out the other one. Alright? Go away, sheepy. Good. Yep, your waste comes out the other one. And finally, you need a means of getting the power out. And that would be a power tap. So let's, yeah, and you can have one, you can have as many as you want. All right, we can fill the whole sides with power taps if we want. One of them, regardless of how big your reactor is, one of these power taps will actually output all of the... Oh no. No, it won't. They've changed it. Alright, so there's a maximum. It's like, 10 million RF. You've got to build a big fucking reactor to reach 10 million RF per tick. Hang on a sec. That's better. Alright, so if you've got a reactor that's big enough to produce more than 10 million RF per tick, you're going to need another one. But for the size reactors that we're working with, like the one in our LP world, one of these power taps is enough. The only issue that you've got is that some conduits, some cables and conduits, won't output as much power as the reactor is producing. Like the one that we built in our LP outputs about 23,000 RF a tick. This can only carry 640. So there's no way that this conduit can carry enough power for you to use what you're generating. This one is 512, this one is 2048. So even this one, which we're using in our LP world temporarily, still can't quite output 100% of the power that the reactor generates. There is a conduit that outputs everything, and that is cryo. Let's see now, is it actually in this pack? Here we go. Cryo stabilized flux duct. Transfer infinite. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Alright. And that's a pretty awesome looking block. It looks like this. So I'm actually going to be making and using some of these in our LP world. We'll get to that at some point. But yeah. So just remember that. Whatever your power output is, when you turn the thing on, just have a look at it. Right, how much power you're generating, and make sure that your cables that you're using are capable of dealing with the power. Okay, so edges are, once you've got your bits and pieces, you've got your power tap, you've got your controller, you've got your access ports. There's a couple of other things, all right? There is a reactor redstone port. Now this switches the reactor on and off depending on a redstone signal. It's very basic, and I never use it. Then you've got the RedNet port, which is the one that we were playing around with. Do you recognize this? It hooks up to Mindfactory Reloaded RedNet cable, and it can output multiple things, input and output multiple things on one piece of wire. This is just redstone signal on or off. This lets you do a bit more. And the last one is this thing. This is a computer port. What you can do is you can use a ComputerCraft computer to hook up to this, and there's a lot of stuff you can do, with this. Basically, anything to do with the reactor you can read and you can change using this port. There is a bit of a problem with this though, which I'll explain to you a little bit later on when we're doing a bit more computer craft. For the moment, RedNet port's the way to go. Now finally, your walls, once they're a bit like the floor, you can use, casings or glass, whichever one, floats your boat. Let's put casings here. Let's put glass here on the front, casings on the bottom, on this side. And then, and there you go. You can see that's resolved into a reactor because, see what it looks like now, alright? When I add this last piece, you see how there's a stripe here and these change to a different pattern and stuff like that. And this changes. This turns red. Without it, this is black. With it, this turns red. That means that the reactor, this thing, has turned into a valid reactor. Okay? So that's the basics of constructing a reactor. Casings along the edge, a couple of, you know, sort of ports and things like that for you to control and output your thing. Oh, by the way, rednet reactor port, not entirely required. You see that's resolved again. The redstone, rednet and computer ports just allow you a way that you can automate your reactor. So the way this is set up now with no control, the only way this works is if I come in here and turn the thing on or off manually. Alright? Alright. So that's the basics of how to build a reactor. Okay? Second thing is, we were talking about different coolants and things like that. Oh, just while we're on this, I've built a couple of demo ones over here. This here is as small as a reactor can get, alright? There is just some casing. I've got an inlet on this side, an outlet on that side, a power tap on the back. These are capacitor banks that I'm using to just store power for our little demo. So there's a power tap in behind there. Let's just get rid of that. There, you can see it. Good. We're going to make some of these as well. There's no coolant, there's no space, there is a single fuel rod inside of here. And that is it. That is as small as a reactor can get. So if I grab a piece of yellorium, right? Where are we? Yellorium. And I put that into our inlet slot. You can just, remember, you can just dump it in here. It's gone in. The reactor is 25% full, so each fuel rod block takes 4 ingots of yellorium in order to fill it. Alright, so if I turn this on, it produces, come on, close to as much power as 3 of those magmatic dynamos that we're using, alright? So that'll happily use its fuel, and we're using very little. Okay, casing heat, yeah, no worries. And as it's operating, it's outputting power here, 59 RF per tick. You can see it going up. Alright, very good. Let's leave that running. This is the first of our demo reactors. It's filled with water. We've got our conduit, our capacitors on the side. This is the simplest way of cooling a reactor, just with water. Once again, we're going to stick 1 yellorium ingot in here. I'm going to press the on button. 0.5, and it says it's outputting 0 flux per tick, which is really sad because, you know, we've put a bit of fuel in and we're just not getting any output for one, you know, reactor. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Now we're starting to produce. It heated up enough to actually produce some power. 58, 59, 60, 61. You see, we're producing more power than that one because this has got coolant in it. That's got no coolant. Right? So from 59 over there, we're up to 71.3 here. Lovely. The other thing to notice is that that is using 0.7 millibuckets. This one is using 0.25. So it's about 1/3 of the fuel usage as well. So I'm producing almost 50% more power and using about 1/3 of the fuel to do it. That's pretty cool. Alright. So we'll just leave this output and see how much we get. Okay, so I set up a few other reactors. using different coolants and different layouts and things like that, just to show you some of the impact of the way that you design your reactor and adding coolant and things like that. Alright, so the first one up, I filled with water. I put a, like, you know, with our little 3x3x3 reactor over here, I put a single ingot of yellorium into each of them, just so that we could see how much power you get from all of these reactors from a single ingot. Now this one here was hubba hubba 7.5 million RF from a single reactor, from a single ingot. Okay, sounds good? It's not. Fucking slimes. This one here, we've got water in a very similar layout to what we built in our world. I think this is like a couple of blocks shorter in height, like all of these are. X and Y, these are all the same size. Height, they're all the same. They're just 2 blocks shorter than what we have in our LP. This one produced 21.7 million for a single ingot. Alright, so let's go back over here. 7. 21. So roughly, you know, just because of the different layout and the fact that I'm using coolant, this one produced 3 times as much power per yellorium ingot than our little no coolant, no space one over there. The next one up is redstone, liquid redstone. This is fairly easy to get early on in the game. I mean, it doesn't take much to produce, a little bit of power and a machine or two. Actually, just one machine, which is not that hard to make. You know, and a bit of strip mining will produce enough redstone. A lot of strip mining will produce enough redstone for you. I mean, it's not that difficult. Same layout as before. You might notice most of these, apart from that one, have got the same layout of rods. Okay, this one produced 21.182. This was 21.769. Alright, so this one here, the redstone one, for a single ingot, produced slightly less power than the water. Next up, we're going to go on to the third one, gelid cryothium. Gelid cryothium is extremely cold, takes a fair bit of effort to craft this stuff. You need some resources and it takes some time. Let's see now. This one produced 26.43 from a single ingot. You know, so you know, we've increased by sort of about 20%. Just by using the different coolant here from either of those two. And this one up the end, that sad ass little thing, is not in the race. And the final one, like, oh, this one, because of its difficulty, this is sort of, it's probably the hardest one to make in terms of coolant. This one here, this is like the one that we produced in our LP. We've got diamond blocks, we've got liquid ender, and here we produced 24. So better than the water, better than the redstone, not as good as the cryothium, you know, in terms of our power production. Over here, just for a laugh, I set up the exact same design, but with no coolant whatsoever. So you can just see how much of a difference even water makes. Alright, we produced 21.769, which I think is pretty close to. Yep. Yep. Hang on, 769, 609, 4048. Okay. So this one, no coolant whatsoever, actually produced ever so slightly more than the water. Alright, this one I actually set up for the express purpose of showing you, do not bother with water coolant. It is so crap that you may as well not bother with it. Unless this is the I'm not bothering with water reactor. And the last one I've set up over here is, I mean, you can see the design of this one, right? Yeah, we've got 3 and then 2 and then 3 and then 2 and then 3, so that we're packing in as many cool rods as possible without actually having them touch side by side. Over here, I've left all of the gaps free. You know, so there are 4 cool rods missing here, 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 and here, just to see what sort of a difference it makes. You know, and we're sort of mostly comparing that one to this one. All right. So how much did this produce? 27,185. This produced 26. So for a single ingot of yellorium, this one is actually a better design than this one. All right? Yeah. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, right, is you might have noticed and our last one. I almost forgot about this little one over here. This is a bit like this one here, okay? It's one single fuel rod, but instead this time I've encased it in cryothium just to see what sort of a difference it makes. So this one we got 7 million-ish, 7,565. This one 11,849. So probably about 50% more power per ingot by using a decent coolant compared to not using a coolant at all. Alright, you might have noticed we also have some barrels full of yellorium, okay? And that's so that I can crank all these things up to their maximum production capacity and see how they're all doing. So let's do that, except for that one. I don't think I'll bother with that one. Alright, so this one, let's just turn all these on. Ya-da-da-da-da. Ya-da-da-da-da. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. You can see how the fuel level inside is it's just increasing and filling up the fuel rods. Yeah, it's all good. 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 Alright. So, our first reactor, Mr. Sad-Ass 1 block. This produces, like when it's completely full of fuel, 263 RF per tick. Alright. Water, 8,980-ish RF per tick, so close enough to 9K. Redstone, 20.1, so about 2.5 times the water. 22, 21.2. So, you know, in terms of the 4 coolants, right? That one is first in the list, then that, with cryothium being the best. Now let's just go and have a look at our empty reactor and compare it to the water one. 8.98, 898, yep. And over here we have 897 something. Right. Oh my goodness. That is how bad water is as a coolant. Use nothing before you use water. I mean, I knew water was bad, but I didn't realise it was that bad. And our last one is comparing these two. So here we've got 22, and in this one over the back we have 17.7. So the difference that the fuel rods that is happening here compared to that one is this one is more efficient in its design, right? It will get more bang out of a single ingot. This one just produces more power. You know, you'd lose a tiny bit on the on the per ingot level, you know, but you gain an amount more on the overall production. Alright, so that's our Big Reactors tutorial part 1. You know, I hope this was sort of educational. Take the time to set up a little creative world, grab the parts, and just practice setting up a few reactors and stuff like that, and maybe fill them up with different coolants and have a mess around. You know, it's a really good learning exercise. For a proper world, avoid water at all costs as a coolant. It sucks so bad. Try and get cryothium. By the time you're setting up a reactor, you should at least be able to afford this one, alright? Which is so much better than that. You should be able to afford this one. If you're working in a world that does not have ender lilies, you might not be able to. Yeah, see, these are from extra utilities. If you don't have extra utilities available, you might not be able to do this one so easy, in which case that's better than water. But in all cases, this is your thing that you should be aiming for, cryothium. And that's for one of these sorts of reactors. There is a second kind of reactor in Big Reactors. Let's have a flick through our little page. Here we go, Big Reactors. Now you can see, you know, we've been using some of this kind of stuff, and that's all good, right? Then we've also got this thing called a turbine housing, turbine controller, power port. That's because reactor glass and turbine glass. That's because there is actually a second kind of reactor that Big Reactors does. It's called a turbine, and it runs off steam. Now they are, you know, a bit more complicated to make and to get set up and to get powered, so I'm not including them in this particular special. This was just to have a look at these sorts of passive reactors, but we will be back for part 2 of Big Reactors, where we have a look at turbines and how to set them up, how to make them run, you know, all that kind of stuff at some point in the future. I hope this was helpful. You know, once again, like I said, if you have any questions about all of this sort of stuff, don't hesitate to drop me an email or something, and I'll get back to you on answering your question as soon as I can. Alrighty, mate. Have a good one, and let's get back to our LP.